What's going on? We are doing a semi-review of the Analogue 3D. It's not going to be like a traditional review. Basically, I'm going to do an unboxing, give you some specs, and then show you a bunch of side-by-side gameplay. Now, pause this here if you want to look at the technical specs. Now, I do want to point something out with the features, so I'm going to go ahead and do a freeze frame of this real quick. Analogue claims that this has built-in a memory pack for the 3D OS with a dual band Wi-Fi and OTA wireless 3D OS updating. As of right now, I don't think that there is any way to connect this to Wi-Fi. You basically either have to connect it to a computer or take the SD card out to update anything. Now, unboxing the Analogue 3D, you get a nice box that it comes in. Inside of the box, you basically get the Analogue 3D, a USB-C charging brick or power brick. You get a branded HDMI cable and a branded USB-C cable, as well as the Analogue 3D. Now, it is in the same kind of shape and everything as an original Nintendo 64. It's a little bit smaller and a little bit sleeker. The power button is a spring-loaded push button, so essentially all you do is just push it up and then it turns on. You also get two little cartridge cleaners and some stickers and stuff. Now, a side-by-side comparison to an original Nintendo 64, the Analogue 3D is a lot thinner and a lot more sleek in design, so it doesn't really take up a lot of space on a shelf. Now, once you pop a game in, you have the option to change the hardware and the display mode, so if you want, go ahead and pause this real quick. Essentially, this is how it comes configured from Analogue. Basically, the virtual expansion pack is already on. They did do a recent update for the region, so you can basically choose which region you want. De-blur is on auto, 32-bit color is on from the factory, and then you have the option to unlock RAM and all that stuff. As far as the display modes go, you have BVM, you also have PVM, CRT, scan lines, and clean. I will do a separate video showing pretty much all this stuff. The image size and the image fit are the same across all of the display modes, so take that into consideration. Now, one other thing I do want to mention, the original Nintendo 64 controllers do work with this with no problem. I do have a Retro Fighters Wireless Brawler 64 wireless controller, which does work with this as well. I have no issues as of yet. Now, something else that I do want to mention, Analogue has already pushed out a couple of firmware updates for the 3D, so take that into consideration if you are planning to buy one of these. They seem to be releasing a firmware update about once a week as of right now. As for flash cards, so flash cards do work with the Analogue 3D. It's just certain flash cards, so take that into consideration. If your flash card is like an EverDrive or a summer card that runs ED64, it should work. ED64P, like the one that I have right now, which is the Ultra 64 flash card I got off Amazon, the ED64P firmware does not work with the Analogue 3D. There is a workaround for this where you would have to use some sort of like a Game Shark or something like that, that potentially is able to boot the flash cards that run ED64P. So take that into consideration. Of course, the original Nintendo 64 cartridges do work flawlessly. There are really no issues with those, so take that into consideration. But if you plan to just buy the Analogue 3D to run a flash card, you may have to switch or upgrade a flash card until there is either a patch firmware from a modder, or if Analogue decides to go ahead and help out the gaming community and basically push out an update or a firmware update to allow all flash cards to work on the Analogue 3D. Now, let's go ahead and jump into some side-by-side comparisons, the meat and potatoes of what I think everybody wants to see with the Analogue 3D. So without further ado, let's go ahead and look at some side-by-side gameplay with the Analogue 3D and a original Nintendo 64. Okay, so let me know what you guys think about the side-by-side, and let's go ahead and talk about the Analogue 3D from my own experience after owning this for about a week now. Now, I think this is a huge improvement for any retro gamer who loves the N64, and if you're watching this, you're probably one of those people. I think the Analogue, in my opinion, should release a firmware update that allows you to run flashcards. And this is just my own opinion. They have already pushed out a few firmware updates which have improved the console somewhat. I would like to see Analogue at least dive in and allow the 3D to run flashcards. And the only reason why I say this is not everybody is a N64 or cartridge collector. That being said, you can still get some pretty good N64 titles for around $10 to $20 each. Some of the more expensive ones, like 30 or 50 bucks, sometimes those are a little hard to just kind of shell out the cash for something that's, 25 plus years old and is going to run you, 30 to 50 bucks. And this is just my own opinion. I think the Analogue 3D is great for retro gamers. If it ran flashcards and not just one specific style that runs the 8064 firmware, if it ran all of the flashcards, I think that this would be a really good deal. Specifically because I myself, I like to own the original cartridges for the games that I really love. Cruisin' USA, GoldenEye, Duke Nukem 64, things like those that I think are timeless. Some people are minimalists who enjoy playing the N64 but don't necessarily want to collect all of the cartridges. That being said, like I mentioned at the beginning of this video, you can play some flashcards. I know the EverDrive X7 and the Summer Kart 64 work on these without issues thanks to Kirk's, who released a new update for the EverDrive range which solves issues Analogue 3D owners were having with the FPGA console's overclocking features. Essentially, to make the EverDrive or ED64 firmware work, you will still need an original Nintendo 64 to update the bootloader on the flash cartridge. As I mentioned, I'm using my Retro Fighters Brawler 64 wireless controller with no issues. You can also purchase the 8-bit Do controller specifically designed for the console with full Bluetooth capabilities, as well as use an original Nintendo 64 controller. Now for my final thoughts. For $270 now, I think the 3D is still a good purchase, but we will have to see what the ModRetro is cooking up with their M64, a competitor to the Analogue 3D, respectively, cheaper and potentially with the same graphical updates. And if it runs all flashcards upon release, then I think the Analogue will suffer from that, especially since Analogue kept pushing the 3D back with delays. For the price point, I think if they had or were able to keep it at the $250 price point, made it capable of running all flashcards, and included the 8-bit Do controller with the console purchase, which to me is a weird thing that you don't include a controller with the console in my opinion, then I would say this is a solid purchase for any N64 lover or retro gamer. It obviously has 4 ports, a 4K HDMI output, which does look stunning in my own personal opinion in person on a large modern flat screen TV, with options to choose how you want to display that through the cartridge settings, which also store that information on the OS, so every time you pop in your favorite game, you don't need to mess with setting up the display features again. I will say the workaround for some flashcards with independent mods and Game Shark workarounds make it a little bit more appealing to me at least, but I still feel you really shouldn't need to have to buy a Game Shark to use a flashcard or install a new bootloader onto your EverDrive just to get it to work. I also feel that the menu system is lacking in a sense. With such a high-powered machine, it should have a ton more features that you could tinker with, and the lack of Wi-Fi options to automatically update the console is frustrating to say the least. Either having to remove the installed SD card or hooking the console up directly to your computer to update firmware. Even with some of the quirks, the 3D still shines in terms of upscaled gameplay. That being said, there's still room for improvement with this console. I still feel I should be able to pop in any cartridge and have it boot up with no issues, including all flashcards. Even some factory N64 games still get issues where it tells you that the cartridge is unknown, causing you to have to remove the cart, reinstall it, and hoping the Analogue reads it correctly. And as far as the side-by-side gameplay goes, so I just want to go ahead and touch on this really quick. Now, as for the side-by-side gameplay, I will say that the Analogue shines very brightly in this. So comparing the Nintendo 64 gameplay to the Analogue 3D, you can tell that the Analogue 3D sharpens the image and makes it much brighter, and I believe that's due to the 32-bit color. Looking at the games side by side, I mean, you can tell that there's a huge difference in the Analogue 3D to an original Nintendo 64. And my Nintendo 64 is hooked up to an RCA splitter that goes out to an HDMI, and that's how I'm able to record the gameplay. But even still, you can definitely tell that there is a huge difference, even recording it at 1080p. And honestly, with a 4K TV, it looks much more impressive. Well, that's it. Tell me what you guys think of this video. If you have an Analogue 3D, what do you think about it? If you're planning on getting an Analogue 3D, tell me what you're most excited about to see with this console. If you guys like this video, go ahead, give it a thumbs up, give it a like. If you didn't like this video, also give it a thumbs up. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, hit all the buttons. I'm Jordan, and I'll catch you guys next time. Peace.
My bitch is bad and bullshit. Cooking up dope with a Uzi. My niggas are savage, ruthless. We got 30s and 100 rounds too. My bitch is bad and bullshit. Cooking up dope with a Uzi. My niggas are savage, ruthless. We got 30s